Hey all, how's it going? This is my fourth year at NAB. I remember, 4 years ago we brought three people. So by the way, I'm Jay. I'm from 12Labs, and today we brought 40. Right. So I wanted to kind of uh, say my gratitude for the community. It's been fantastic. We're the dinky startup that kind of had cold video understanding tech, and the community really like embraced 12Labs, and we're able to grow really fast with you all. And I was thinking, you know, I've been like doing a lot of vibe coding, and we all probably suffer from context. And I was thinking, what does like NAB, like collectively, what do we do? I think we're literally building the infrastructure for the world's memory, right? With amazing streaming technologies to the kind of video understanding that we do. So I appreciate all the hard work you guys do, and I'm really excited to jam. So without a further ado, I can give my background on 12Labs. So 12Labs is a full stack video understanding infrastructure. So we don't do video generation, but we build everything from video indexing, inference infrastructure to proprietary models for large scale video search and analysis, and then agentic orchestration layer on top of it. So it is truly a full stack. If you are dealing with large scale video archives, we try to provide that understanding layer for you to have granular access to your content and monetize, so on and so forth. And here with me, more interestingly, our partner and collaborator, Sardius Media, Jason, the CEO, is here. Why don't you tell us about what you do?
Hi, it's great to be here. I'm Jason Shore, CEO, Sardius Media, co-founder. Sardius Media, we work with organizations that are broadcasting at scale, global operations that work with multiple campuses, multiple locations, dozens of events a week, doing that at a scale of not just yearly, but in 20, 30, 40 years of content. And when you have that level of content, you have an archive that's no longer just an archive. You have a history. You have your organizational context. You have your organizational memory. And with that level of context, you have to kind of start to treat it differently. So we're looking at that of how do you actually understand that content at a deeper level to find that value, or also create value in a shorter amount of time.
Awesome. Well, let's just kind of do like a vibe check. How many of you actually own more than like a petabyte worth videos? Okay. More than petabyte, exabytes? Okay. So some of you guys will definitely resonate with what we are going to talk about. So I think, whenever we are in NAB or these meetings, at a high level, like intuitively, you would like to be able to fully leverage your archive. But what does it actually mean to not be able to do that, right? Not be able to have granular access to whatever content you own. And like, what does that mean to Sardius and customers?
Yeah, I was thinking about an example of this, and I think when I think about where we're at in it as an industry, it's like the gold rush. There was gold sitting underneath all these different places, but nobody knew it existed. So you're sitting on a wealth and a treasure that's underneath you that just needs to be unlocked. And through really the past 5 years, it's like just now getting to the point where that understanding of that content can actually be available, where previously you would try and unlock it, and what that looked like was a person like watching the video, trying to transcribe it, trying to add that additional metadata, where that metadata was really an administrative task. It didn't produce any value in the understanding of the content. It didn't give you the ability to deeply search inside of that content to mine for understanding, where we're at a point in time where we can actually not just understand it's this category, it's this speaker, it was on this date, all that kind of information, or even this was what was said. It's no, this is the emotion that was given at this point in time to understand the context of this video. So asking those deep questions that you didn't even have the capability to really have the information until really the past year, that it's moving so quickly.
Yeah. I think most of us, when I started 12 Labs, I basically wanted to make video as easy as text, right? Video is just really, really hard. And most of you probably think the cloud storage as like a cost center. So I think one of the frequent questions is about, like from customers, is about ROI, right? And, there's complex kind of layer to measuring ROI. Like it could be time saving or new monetization, like opportunities, so on and so forth. How is Sardius kind of going through figuring out the ROI, and what ROI do you think your customers are perceiving through this amazing work that you've done with, streaming infrastructure, and now working with 12 Labs? You have this amazing video understanding, capabilities. So like, let's kind of like hone in on the ROI side of things.
Yeah, when I think of the ROI, it's deeply connected to an organizational mission. So ROI looks different depending on what organization you're at. Some organizations, the value that it brings is connected to understanding the content, just unlocking the historical understanding. Other organizations, it's unlocking that content for other additional monetization uses. So one example is an organization that may have let's say news footage that they've procured over time. At the time of that recording, you may not have had an actor that was less known that now has a sudden fame because of a new movie, new content, and all of a sudden that footage now became exceptionally more valuable, but you didn't know that was more valuable, and you wouldn't have known that they were in the conversation or in the background or in the had an interview with that person without having deep understanding to search inside of that. Another one of our clients, they have a Grammy nominated singer that they're recording 2-inch tapes. So think of all the broadcast tapes, and they're digitizing those. And what's happening is they're realizing that there's videos and audio from this artist that it's only been seen one time. It was recorded once when it first aired, but they didn't even know it existed. So you're looking at mining for value that was just didn't even know it was there. So that has both organizational value, but also has monetizing value because it's brand new content that is just locked within their current system or within a format that didn't even have the ability to understand.
Good. Jason, I have a hot take on the ROI. These are some of the questions that I've also been getting. What if the video generation model gets so good that you would just dynamically produce content you'll never record? So like, what's the point of keeping the old archive, and what cool things can you actually do with it? What are your thoughts on that? Because there are certainly group of AI induced hypists who would say like, we're just going to do dynamic generation all the way.
Yeah. So the interesting part about dynamic generation, even like when you're looking at Claude Code or whatever you like, the model that you're using, the part that nobody else can give is the context that you give it. Nobody can take, they can't give you your own context. They can't give you your own historical, your history of your organization. Nobody can remake that. And so you're sitting on something that is truly only yours. It doesn't matter what model you use. It doesn't matter what generation process. You have to have your own history, your own context that you're bringing. And I think that's, if we're talking about AI as a whole, that is a very unique spot that's coming in right now. That the context that you can create and generate within your own personal context, organizational context, and then connecting that back to the model to actually understand, because what that does is it begins to create clarity in what you're trying to get to, because you understand your history. Without understanding your history, you can't actually clearly paint where you're going or where the trajectory of your organization. So I think the value is actually in the fact that nobody else can give that information. You uniquely have that treasure that is yours, not necessarily somebody else's. So you can try and generate new content. You can try and like create all these things, but they're only going to be creating from their own point of view. They're never going to be creating from your point of view.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you said that, because that makes 12 Labs all the more relevant. In terms of context, I know many of us probably tried Frontier Labs models, and, it's a different context, but still, like in the AI world, it's sad that we're always thinking about like LLM's context window. What do you think, like, how do you think about that, right? Like, we're working with large amounts of video, but then there's no context window is large enough. Where do you think we need to go? And then we can segue into, what you just told us about, like moving from tapes to cloud.
Yeah, there's still challenges that we're facing.
Yeah.
I think that's AI isn't to the point of full understanding of all these context pieces and full understanding of those things, but every day something gets released. We're looking at a daily release cycle. I think it's every 6 hours it feels like something is happening. So when I'm looking at the context window and these growth and all these different pieces, you have to then additionally potentially repackage it in a way that you can collapse that context into a way that you can utilize that.
Yeah.
Whether that's collapsing that understanding to time-based information or time-based metadata that then could be utilized in other ways.
Yeah.
So using a model to understand the video, but then creating time-stamped information or time-stamped data that then you can use to then re-ask questions and kind of iterate on top of that. So you don't have to constantly use that context model or that large context in a question every single time. You can collapse that.
How many of you guys are actually frustrated with context window? Anyone? No? Tried loading like an hour-long video into a language model? Or shocked at the token pricing, token cost? Like you probably hit 50 regen and then end up with like a $15,000 bill? What more do we need to do you think? Where do you think this technology should head for video and multimedia assets? I think time-based segmentation is extremely valuable, but
yeah, I think it's at a point where we're understanding the content, but then it's now connecting it to the value for the organization, but then also shortening the time to value. So it's not just understanding and like finding the content, but then it's now what are we going to do with it? How do we connect it to the tools that we have and the features that we have to decrease that amount of time that it takes to create the content, decrease the amount of time it takes to expose that content to end users. I think when you look at these large libraries of content, they're often locked inside of a person inside of that organization.
Yeah.
It's a single person in that organization that has, what was that one video that they said this one thing, or they had this perfect shot, and everybody in the organization knows to go ask that person, like, oh yeah, they'll know. Oh no. But that becomes a bottleneck within your organization. Yeah. It creates bottlenecks within the time that it takes to get that value. And so how do we actually democratize that understanding across all of your video, not just internally, but then externally also? How can the clients and users get that content, get that value, get that understanding at the same pace that internal teams have it?
Yeah, that's really interesting point. And that's why, like, we talked about like cloud migration, like 2.0, where, getting to that value or, helping our partners, experience with these capabilities faster so that they can build better, or more unique, like, or newer monetization schemes. Like, talk to me about like the process of moving from tape to cloud migration. And do you think we have enough meat on the bone to finally think that this is not going to be a cost center? Like, we can actually do things that help us generate revenue.
Yeah. The process of migrating from a 2-inch tape or 1-inch tape or whatever a historical broadcast standard, is a daunting task, but it was often a daunting task in the context of, once you digitize it, you still had to go through it all. And still didn't actually have the value that you could potentially get from that.
Yeah.
So it became a cost center. It became like, well, I guess we have to do this. But, the reality now is often the 2-inch tape and those kind of things are ending their life. We're at it's a ticking time bomb of of just losing, historical context for all of these organizations and the information, because those don't last forever. I mean, they're set to last 20, maybe, I mean, if you're really lucky, 30, 40 years, maybe. So, but even doing that, you have to go to great lengths to get it out. But once you get that, then you have all that understanding. So now running it through AI and the TwelveLabs and the different infrastructures there, you actually can pull out that understanding, pull out that value you deliver to your end user, and then often find gems.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. When people find content that they didn't even know existed, they're like, what? I didn't know this was on shelf 12 in the very back of our giant library of videos.
Yeah. I mean, Sardius is literally at the forefront of helping these, large organizations move their tapes onto cloud. And then, you help them with encoding software, hardware, streaming, and now with us, video understanding. Can you give like a case study on customers, on like what they've done, like what kind of value they actually saw, right? I mean, intuitively it makes sense. Like, it's like, oh, I'm sitting on on pile of gold. I didn't even know I had this. This is extremely valuable. New content, get more viewership. Concrete.
Yeah. So one of our clients, broadcaster, they had been broadcasting since the 70s. So they have I think there was actually a slide, but I don't know if it'll show or not. There's a picture of it, but, has a large library of tapes. It's one of those impressive, like, you walk into it and you go, wow, you have all of this history. That process has been, what I was talking about earlier, of just being able to understand and pull value out of that, pull songs that have never been heard except for one time when it was aired. I think that there's a vast amount of value in that content and those songs, because, I mean, we're talking about gold album like artist that has a brand new song, and I mean, he's since passed away, so it's not just like new content, it's new content from somebody that was beloved by the community.
Yeah that's awesome. How many of you guys are actually dealing with tapes? No tapes?
There is
that gentleman. You know the right guy to talk to. Awesome. Now, I kind of want to move us into like some agents work. Where do we think we are in terms of agents readiness for video, right? We have like all this LLMs, Claude Code, right? They're building software for you. Where do we think we are in terms of running like agents on your video assets?
Yeah.
What should we be thinking about?
I think agents as a whole right now are really, it's organizing middle management. I mean, it's managing the outcome. How do you actually clearly articulate the outcome that you're wanting to get to? I think that is a real challenge that we're seeing in the industry of clarity is really the new bottleneck. We've kind of moved, it used to be that capacity was our bottleneck. We don't have enough developers. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough, editors. What does that look like? But now it's moving into clarity of understanding of what you're trying to get to is actually become the new bottleneck. Because if it will clearly do what you say, but if you say the wrong thing or not with clarity of what you're trying to get to, it will go the wrong direction. So that's been where we're at with agents. I think that's going to be the new thing of like, how do we actually understand and create clarity in our direction and how we orchestrate that? I think there's also things like agent harnesses and other like that's a big topic of what the agent research and all the different flows around that. But I think it could be as simple as clearly understanding where you want to get to will create value instantly.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we are focused on in terms of agents, I think all of us probably went through this crazy LLM psychosis. You feel like 100x more productive. You start 10 different projects and you end up finishing none of it, right? So like being able to clearly, communicate what you want out of these agents is certainly, I think LLM providers are solving. But in terms of like our multimedia assets, we talked about how no context window is large enough to fit your entire archive. So I think as an industry, I see some like research that's being done, to build that audio visual like memory layer that serves as the context, not the model based context window. And I think that's really exciting that there are very smart people that's working toward that. What do you see that's not working, man? And like when you are evaluating like these new workflows, new tools, like what are the gotchas? Like what would you want the audience here to not make the same mistake that maybe some of your customers made or you've made?
Yeah, I think everybody says they have AI, but not everybody has true understanding.
Yeah.
I think that's you can just look around. It's AI everywhere. There's always everybody going to say that they have it embedded into their system, but not all of the models are the same, and not all of the systems are going to return the same results, and not all the systems are going to return the results for your content in that scenario. So being able to tune that content or tune the results or how you're asking the questions to that to find the results is a nuance that a lot of times people kind of miss of like, it's great that you can find a logo, but a logo doesn't give you understanding in the content. It's great that you can find a person, but is that person smiling and happy with that It's more than just finding that person. It's finding the understanding past that search bar.
Yeah. That's interesting because I think like the entire industry is now really thinking about what are some other ways for us to really monetize once we have this extremely like granular but holistic understanding of our archive other than ads, right? Do you have like some sort of vision around what could that monetization be?
Oh, man. It's a tough question.
It is $1 trillion question.
Honestly, if I had the answer, I probably probably would have been billed at some level. But when it really comes down to the value, finding that value, I think it's a lot easier to find value in a piece of content that you've already created than one that you have to create. So any organization that can reutilize content that they already have, they've already sunk that cost in that.
Yeah.
So the actual value becomes organizationally too, to be able to reutilize that content. I think that's an angle that a lot of organizations aren't looking at, of the internal value that brings to an organization and the internal ROI from that content.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's really interesting because if you think about your assets, like, we are a research company, so we use a lot of compute, like a lot of GPU. So like we think about our compute and try to amortize cost, right? So let's just assume you've indexed your video. It's fully searchable. It's on cloud. How should we be thinking about OpEx of storing video on cloud? Like, do you have kind of thoughts on that? Like, how many excesses should this, video should have from like different agents or your employees or your editors? How should we be thinking about that?
Yeah, we kind of take a different approach on how we store content. We look at it as putting content on multiple different providers, multiple different storage mechanisms, multiple different use cases, which allows for optimizing where that content is. So whether that's on-prem or whether that's in the cloud or whether that's in multiple clouds, and delivery and storing that information. So that's kind of how we've approached the paradigm, approached that, allowing for the flexibility across clouds, across storage mechanisms, and optimizations that come when you have that ability and that opportunity to move your content around where it needs to be.
Yeah. Sardius is launching a lot of exciting products this month.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. Well, don't make it a product pitch, but make it, what are you, I'm sure these are technologies that you're really excited about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to do a demo, I think, at the 12Labs booth tomorrow at 5, but which you're welcome to come and
right over there, folks.
Get more information there. But a lot of what we're launching is around what we're talking about. How do you get the value from the library that you have? How do you understand the content that you have in your library? If you're one of the people that raised your hand of having a petabyte of data, you recognize that it's really hard to find the right content at the time when that one person asked you. I was just having a conversation with a client that they were talking about a library that they have in the leadership asked a question, and then they were like, oh man, we're going to have to go find that person that understands that content, find that person that knows where that piece of content is. That's no longer, you don't have to do that. You can just ask the question and it finds the content. Having that, no longer is it hours to find the content, it's seconds. So that's one of the things that we're launching, AI discovery. So being able to discover the value that's in your content. So yeah, like I said, you can learn more tomorrow at 5. So yeah.
That's awesome. And on a personal level, I think 12Labs and I are really focused on making customers' assets future-proof for agent workloads. I think it's not just going to be powering search for humans, but I think agents will make multiple searches, find those clips, build that assembly for you, right? So we have a lot of cool things going on. And I think, we're really grateful to be working with you and our partner at AWS to be able to build something like that. And, and thanks all for joining. Come hang out at 12Labs booth, and check out what Sardius has been cooking.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
Appreciate it.